What started as a vision for middle-income earners that luxury can be affordable has now become the driving force of Middle-Land housing developer Empire East Land Holdings. We sit down with President and CEO Charlemagne Yu on how the Duterte administration's infrastructure push has become an impetus for expansion in the country's up-and-coming cities. Hello, I'm Kathy Yang. Join me as we get up close and personal with the boss.
Once Megaworld's bet on the community housing market, Empire East Land Holdings is now in a league of its own since branching out as an independent company in 1994. With 10 completed projects under its belt, Empire East has benefited from the growing purchasing power of the Filipino middle class. And it's not stopping there. The real estate giant is also working on 7 other developments, mostly located in strategic locations across Metro Manila. But compared to its parent Megaworld, Empire East has been getting less attention from investors. Since hitting a high of 1 peso and 18 centavos in 2013, its stock has recently been trading range-bound at 70 centavos per share. That's a far cry from Megaworld's stock performance, with the company rising over 17% year-to-date. Though that may not be the case in the next years, after undertaking a 25 billion peso expansion drive which started in 2014. Just like its parent, Empire East has also begun taking on massive township projects. Its biggest venture so far, a 23-hectare mixed-use township development in Pasig City, which will be called the Empire East City. And as government embarks on its ambitious infrastructure buildup, developers like Empire East will only have more opportunities to expand. For The Boss, I'm Bruce Rodriguez.
Charlie, good to have you with us. Thank you so much for making the time.
Anytime, Kathy.
You've had the first mover status, Empire East, in the middle end segment of the market here. How has the landscape changed since?
Back in 1994, when we started this, nobody was in the middle income segment. Most people were in the upper end or in the mass housing. The reason for that is because it's very difficult to penetrate the middle income segment. However, since 1994, the focus of our chair, Dr. Andrew Tan, was that we should go to the middle income segment, and that's the reason why a unit in Megaworld was spun off to create Empire East, just to focus on the middle market. And the middle market is a very difficult market because it is a market that has been exposed to the pleasures and luxuries in life, yet the affordability is not quite at that level yet.
20 years on, is it still a difficult market?
It still is a very difficult market because it is a very discriminating market. You have to give what we call affordable luxury that people can afford. So it's very difficult to marry both affordability and luxury. It's a market that the buyers are very conscious about the expenditures, so they make sure that they get what they're paying for. So it's really value for money for members of this market.
This difficult and discerning market is making you spend, what, 25 billion pesos for capital expenditures in the next 5 years.
Right.
How is that coming along?
That's doing very well. If you look at the market landscape right now, when we were initially the only one in 1994, today every single developer is in that market. It only reinforces our belief that this is where the market should be, and even in the most difficult times, this is the most stable market. Unlike the luxury market, which evaporated during the crisis, the middle market stayed on. It is a very stable market, and we believe that there's a very bright future for this market.
And you're not wasting time. You've got 8 multi-tower projects within Metro Manila, 4 of which have been launched.
Right.
How are they doing so far in terms of take-up?
They're doing very well. In terms of reservation sales, we have around 1 to 1.5 billion of reservation sales every month, which is probably one of the highest among developers within this market segment.
So it's even in excess of 1 billion pesos?
All the time, yes.
All the time. And where is the demand coming from?
The demand is coming from both domestic as well as overseas. Overseas, of course, you have the overseas Filipino workers. And the domestic market, you have a very robust economy here. And we must remember that we have a very good BPO sector in the Philippines. We are the leader now in the BPO sector, and the BPO sector has helped a lot in terms of bringing income into the housing segment. And we project that this will continue in the years to come.
So what will this mean for the launch of your other multi-story project?
We are very confident that they will all be very successful. We're hopeful that we will be able to launch most of them. And we will all depend. It all depends on market acceptance. Whenever we launch a product, we make sure that we know the market very well before we launch them. And when we start launching them, we just go on and on. I mean, until we settle everything.
And this is only for Metro Manila because you're still looking to expand outside the city, and you've got a land bank of over 400 hectares.
Yes.
So where are we looking at to expand outside the city?
Right now, aside from Metro Manila, we also have some projects in Laguna and Cavite, and we're looking around all over. We have showrooms, for instance, in Pampanga, in Baguio, in Cebu, in Davao, and these are showrooms that are outside of Metro Manila because we want to have a feel of the market outside. And once we have the feel of the market, we know exactly which market is right for our project.
So which market is right for your projects?
That is something that you will find out very soon.
Does it look like it's the same kind of discerning crowd that you have here in Metro Manila?
Oh, yes, definitely so, especially in the provinces because money is hard earned. So you will see that people will really make sure that they get value for money. We expect them to be exactly the same, if not even more discerning than the buyers of Metro Manila.
But the infrastructure isn't so great. I mean, a lot is being done now to address the infrastructure gap. If you were to tell the government what you needed most to build your projects faster than you would forecast, what would it be?
Well, actually, we're very thankful for this administration for the commitment in infrastructure spending. For the next 6 years, they've committed to spend so much for infrastructure that will really be a boost for the housing market. Wherever they go, whether it's airports, seaports, roads, etc., all of these will help us. So however they spend their money, it is going to help the economy. When it helps the economy, in turn, it will help the housing sector.
So how is it looking like? The next land bank, the growth, is it going to come from Visayas or Mindanao?
Visayas and Mindanao are very strong areas, but Northern Luzon is also very strong. Because Northern Luzon, you have a lot of overseas Filipino workers.
And the market for Visayas and Mindanao?
Oh, definitely very strong. In fact, our Megworld is already in Visayas and Mindanao, both in Iloilo and Cebu in Visayas and Davao in Mindanao. And they're doing very well in all those projects there.
And how will you coordinate your expansion plans with Megaworld? Because they're also planning to expand some more in these growth cities outside Metro Manila. Are you going to be going where they go or going away from where they go?
Not necessarily. I mean, you see, there are segmentation in the market. Megaworld is really in the upper market. We are in the broad middle market. So if the market is such that it can accommodate two big players, then we can go where they are. But for the moment, I think it's also good for us to explore other markets so that we do not in any way compete directly with Megaworld. We are now discussing with many landowners for possibility of sale or joint venture. So if any of these discussions, if we get into a deal, then we definitely will have something big in 2017.
Is it difficult? I mean, talking to the landowners so far?
It's always difficult to talk to landowners to part with their properties. But as long as they see that they're parting their properties with a responsible developer, and they will see that that property of theirs will become something that they can be proud of, most landowners are willing to part with the properties.
And does it look like it's going to be more joint ventures and property sales?
We're open to any joint venture and property sales.
Why would that be? It's profitable for you either way.
Yes, and it also depends on the landowner. The landowner sometimes wants a joint venture, sometimes they want outright sale. So it's not really dictated only by us, but also by the landowners.
So 25 billion pesos in 5 years, how are you generating the money? Is it internally generated or you're looking to get some more loans from the bank?
To the extent possible, we want it to be internally generated. The banks have approached us and have asked us to take out loans. We have so far not been very susceptible to these invitations. For as long as we can do it with internally generated funds, we will. But we are not discounting the possibility of taking out loans from the banks.
Why not?
The interest rate regime is very good. We've never had such good rates, and we think that it will continue.
You've learned everything property from Dr. Andrew Tan. You mentioned him at the start of the interview.
Yes.
I mean, he guided you all throughout.
Right.
In fact, Empire East was made after the Asian financial crisis broke out.
Dr. Andrew Tan is a phenomenon. I mean, while he was there as a visionary, he also allowed his people to take charge. In fact, I remember the first thing he told me when he asked me to assume the position of leadership in Empire East. He said, the only thing that you should not do is not do anything. Do not be afraid to fail. Go ahead and do whatever you want. When you fail, you just have to rise again. And how many visionaries do you have in the country who can speak like that to their officers? Go and fail and just keep on doing. And do not be afraid of failure because it will paralyze you. And unlike the others, Dr. Andrew Tan has given free rein to his executives, and that's the reason why you can see that he grows very fast. He can focus different sectors because he allows people to lead on their own.
So did you take the job soon as he asked you to build Empire East? I mean, you were doing very well as vice president at Mega World.
At the time, I believed in Dr. Tan, and much as I felt that I was too young for the position and there were a lot more qualified and older people, when he gave me his trust and confidence, I decided to take it on. It was not easy because I took it on at the height of the Asian crisis. We just had an IPO, a very successful IPO. We were awash with cash. We were launching projects left and right, and suddenly the market crashed. And then the youngest executive was asked to take over a publicly listed company. What do I do? It's like I always liken the situation to somebody who suddenly became a father. You have a child, what do you do? What do you do? Actually, we don't know what to do, but we just do the best of what we can. We were given that responsibility, we just go on and do it. I mean, you cannot leave a child, you cannot leave a baby like that. You will just have to carry on. And I think that is how we were able to manage the last 20 years by looking at this company as a child, and it was given fathers and mothers to take care of the child, and together with the people in the company, we would like to think that we were very successful in bringing Empire East to where it is today.
So how did you manage going over the global financial crisis when it struck in 2008, 2009?
It was very difficult. We would like to think that the reason why we were able to survive, and not only survive but prosper, was because we were very innovative. One of the things that we think we greatly contributed not only to Empire East but to the industry in general was the introduction of the no down payment scheme and spread the amortization over 12-15 years. Why did we do that? Because nobody was buying at the time. So we decided that since nobody was buying, we have to change the entire formula. What can people afford? Knowing that this is what people can afford, and that is the monthly amortization. So we worked backwards, and what did we do? We really made housing affordable to people. Before it was 30% down and 70% in 3 years' time, you have to pay it. But with the new scheme, we decided to make housing more affordable to many people. At that time, many of the developers thought that we were crazy. Today, there is not a single major developer that does not follow that scheme.
And what sort of innovation are you now putting into the work as you build out of Metro Manila?
Many of the innovations that we have done in Empire East include, for instance, the transport-oriented development. Many of the developers do not want to go through and build in major thoroughfares. The reason why we decided to build major thoroughfares is because we wanted to connect ourselves with the mass railway transit. We saw the experiences of Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, and we said, you know, this is our contribution to lessen the carbon footprint. Instead of buying your car, you just use the mass railway transit, you buy your unit. So with that, we started that, it became very successful. Now all the developers are in the major thoroughfares. We also were the first to start the loft type of development. The reason for that is because it was initially very difficult to introduce the condominium concept to our buyers. Why? Because they're used to a house and lot. Why? Because they needed private space. But with the loft type of development, the loft area can be a private space and the ground area can be the area where you entertain visitors. That was a big hit, and in fact, one of our first project during the crisis period, the height of the crisis period, was Green Hills Garden Square. It was a development of 800 units. We nobody's launching, so we decided that we want to launch it, giving the no down payment amortization scheme. 800 units. In 5 weeks' time, we were supposed to have our launching. In 5 weeks' time, we sold out every single unit. So we did not have a launch. We did not even get our brochures that we printed. And it was followed by another project, and another project, and another project. Since then, all the developers followed that scheme that we adopted.
What about get into PPP projects and go for the bidding?
We are not ready for that yet. Right now, we're very focused in providing for housing for the middle income segment of the population. We think we're very good at it, and we would like to continue to exploit that possibility and expand the horizon insofar as middle income housing is concerned.
When we come back, how Empire East's top boss juggles family and advocacy. Now, away from work, you're very busy as well with the non-governmental organizations. I mean, you've been so busy with this since college. I mean, why get into that?
I believe that what defines me is not just my work, but what defines me includes the person that I am. And much of that is my belief that people are entitled to education. So access to education to me is very important. And that's the reason why I'm very active with a group called ERDA, established by the late Father Pierre Tritz, who is known as a living saint. I also believe that we are all stewards in this world, and therefore I believe that as stewards we must be able to pass on what we have to the next generation, which is why I'm very active in environment work through El Nido Foundation. I'm also a teacher. I remain a teacher. I started teaching in 1983. I continue to teach today. I am a professor of law at the UP College of Law, teaching constitutional law.
Constitutional law, this is so far away from property.
Right. As I said, even with my NGO work, it is not corporate related. So even in my academic work, it is because of my personal interests. I've always been intrigued with constitutional law, and I've started teaching it as a college course, in fact as a high school course in Xavier School, and then I taught for many years at the Ateneo, and then I taught in La Salle, and now I'm teaching in UP. It serves as an outlet as well for me, and to me the best way to learn is to teach.
Do you not ever think of getting into law at some point after property, or maybe do that together?
Before property, I was into law. I was active as a lawyer, but after one of the clients got me and took me in as a vice president of theirs, and from there my corporate career started.
What are the hazards of the job of finding a client who wanted to hire you? You've been so busy. How do you spend time with the family?
I make sure that my Saturday afternoon and Sundays are with them. We hear Mass together, and with my kids, we bond together through scuba diving. My kids love scuba diving. We dive everywhere we go, and I think that it's really a good activity for us because aside from bonding, it teaches them about the environment, and more importantly, it teaches them about how insignificant we all are around such wonderful environment. You see one's insignificance, and it's such a humbling experience. And I think every kid should go through that experience.
And the kids also travel with mom because she's also very interested in going around the world.
Right. When we have the opportunity to travel, we travel with my kids, my wife, and my mom. My mom was 83 years old and always traveled with us because we just love her. My kids are very fond of my mom, and my mom are very fond of my kids. So it's a very good opportunity for us to bond outside of work.
And I see that you're very fond of ducks as well. I mean, it's quite a collection you've got here in the office. Not in the bathtub, but here in your office.
Well, that started when I got sent for some assignments, and some hotels would have all these ducks. So I started collecting them, and then people would see my collection of ducks, and they would start giving me ducks.
Well, for all that you've learned from Dr. Andrew Tan and the 20 years that you've been in the property business, as well as been a teacher of law, what is your own definition of a boss?
A boss? Well, I think what defines somebody in an executive position, a person in an executive position is usually tested during the first few months of his assuming that position, and mine was such a test in the midst of the Asian crisis. And because of what we had experienced at the time, I realized that being a boss is not having authority. It's not about authority at all. It's never about authority. It's really about working with people and trying to harness the best in people. Empire East will not be what Empire East is today if not for the people that we have. In the midst of the crisis at the time, all I did was gather people around and assure them that they will not be fired for as long as they work very hard and work for the company. And they did just that, and we were able to survive that crisis. And up till today, the company is what it is today, not because of any one person. It is because of the collective efforts of so many hardworking people. I think being a boss means being able to work with interdependencies. It's a very humbling experience because a lot of people think that being a leader or an executive means that you can order people around. No, most of the time you just manage these interdependencies in order to move forward, and you try to get the best out of people. As I always tell my people, I do not have to like you. I just have to like your work. That to me is very important. If you don't take anything personally, then everything becomes very easy.
Well, all the best in your plans and projects. Thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. Appreciate the time and the sharing.
Thank you very much.
This housekeeping robot, dubbed MyBot, was developed at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. It's designed to be helpful, especially in the kitchen, and can determine where objects are located around a room.
What is next to the microwave?
Toaster.
How many yellow cups are there?
2.
It can perform simple tasks, offer recipes, and is even sensitive to facial expressions. MyBot's makers say creating artificial intelligence is similar to training a puppy. Thanks to their work, it might not be long before we have robot housemates. For The Boss, I'm Gia Densing.
We asked, you answered. Here are some of the responses we got from you last week. What about you? Where in the Philippines would you build your dream home? Don't forget to hit us up with the hashtag #TheBossANC. That's it for the show. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kathy Yang. See you again next week.